Let me show you how to add some joy to your Aston Martin. In this episode of Aston1936.com, I'm going to continue the install of my Aston Installations HD infotainment system upgrade. I've been working my way across the bench. In the last video, you saw me install the USB port and most control switch into my utility tray. What we're going to be worrying about in this video then is the controls that go in the ashtray. So there's a joystick and some other buttons. So let's head over to the bench and I'll explain what we're doing here. So we have to add some control buttons to operate the Android Auto, Apple Carplay, HD installation system. And where they get installed is in here in the ashtray area where you probably have, like me, a PowerPoint and just basically some loose crap that I never put anything in here anyways. So what Aston Installations has done is they have 3D printed a replacement ashtray that we are going to mount some stuff to. So it's essentially a sacrificial ashtray. It has the hole for the PowerPoint, but we're going to actually replace the ashtray container with this one, and then we are going to mount these buttons that do various jobs. So this is the HD screen input switcher button. That's going to get mounted. If you're getting a front and rear parking camera, there's a button to control that. And then there's the main joystick that we're going to install for operating the infotainment system. There's a couple of other pieces they ship along with the kit that you may or may not use. One is this little spacer that's going to, if you're in a Vantage that doesn't have quite the same clearance underneath for the cigarette lighter socket, you could put this in as a spacer to lift it up about, I don't know, 5 millimeters to get you the clearance you're going to need. In my DB9, I'm not going to need that. And then there's also, if you're getting the front parking camera, there's a little piece of adhesive for mounting this button that we're going to use. So let's get started. And what we need to do is actually remove the ashtray assembly from the console. Now, you've already seen in previous videos where I've mounted the these buttons in the utility tray, these sockets for the USB and the most control switch. And right now the wiring looms for those are now laying over top what I need to remove. So we're going to start by actually removing that whole utility tray again. And we're going to take all the screws the same. We're going to use a T20 Torx and remove the screws that hold down the utility tray and the coin holder. And now we can set that aside. All right, so we can see here a little bit better view now of the ashtray assembly. And so it's mounted with 4 T20s as well. And the curses of anything plastic in an Aston Martin, that's part of the left-hand bracket broke off for me. And I'm thinking very bad words right now. Okay, and that should just lift away now. And we can put the center console piece aside. So here we have essentially the center part. We have the cigarette lighter part, and then we have 2 end caps. We're going to take the end caps off next, and those are just done with a simple Phillips screwdriver. There's 4 screws per side. And there are alignment pegs that hold this up. So there's our cover, get our screws out. And the cover just basically, this is a spring-loaded deal to hold the cover on so that the cover would close automatically. So we can just leave that be. And what was giving me a bit of resistance as I was taking it apart, you can see on here there's a couple of alignment lugs that were pressed into holes in the original ashtray body. So we've got those carefully removed for now. Same thing, we can remove the screws on the other end. And away comes this cover. Same thing, it's got a couple of alignment pins. Okay, so we'll take the cap off the power plug as well. So a scary part that, so we have to get this power outlet to come out. And I sat there and looked at it and I tried to figure out if I was supposed to press in these tabs and get it to come through. Then I contacted James at Aston Installations, and his comment was, get big hammer device and apply knockout center silver thing. Okay, so once we're going to press the silver main socket out, and then it's going to make it easy to push in the tabs and somehow take out the green plastic. I have not done this before, so let's do this together. So what I've got here is rather than just trying to beat on the electrical connectors and stuff like that, I'm using a large socket that just fits over. And then I'm, maybe this is a 19 millimeter. I'm going to maybe go one size smaller. Yeah, maybe an 18 millimeter here to use it as a punch. And now I'm just going to give it a couple of gentle taps. Ah, it is starting to move. So now I'm bottoming out on my bench here. So go and grab yourself your handy dandy scrap piece of shop wood just to give yourself some extra clearance. And out it comes. Now we need to get this plastic piece out, and I am terrified of cracking plastic parts on an Aston Martin. So it looks like there is an alignment slot there, so that doesn't push in, but then there's the plastic tab that eases in there. And there's probably a similar thing on the other side. So the way this is scalloped, I'm guessing I push this in and it, because there's this big attachment, and then it'll sort of fold over. Please don't break, please don't break. Okay, now it's a bit of a puzzle, but now I'm down below the depth of that alignment key. I can probably turn it, because I'm bumping in here now. Actually level it up a bit because it was cocked over. There we go. Gently pushing the plastic out. And there we go. Egads. Okay, so we've got the power plug out, and that's it for the old ashtray. So we can set that aside as a reference. So now, probably in reverse order, I'm just going to do the same thing. There is the keyway there that they've. So this is a 3D printed part. It's pretty trick from Aston Installations. It weighs hardly anything, but this gave them a way to get a completely, perfect flat surface. So my keyway is over there. There we go. So there's how it ends up. It's kind of aligned over top like that. I've got the keyway lined up and I have this pushed in. So next up, we're going to put back the socket. Let's see if this lines up. There we go. Oh, much easier going back in. So now I've got the PowerPoint moved over. So now for some fun stuff. Well, the joystick's going to go in here, and they actually have a hole pre-cut in the leather. So I'm going to pass the control wire through. And so it's going to sit about like that. The next two buttons, so if you have a front parking camera, this button is going to sit tucked in here just upright. So you could put it in, you know, at an angle if you wanted to, but the OCD and me and James at Aston Installations is I need to have this thing straight up and down. Otherwise I will sit there and fret about it. And there's these two little side buttons. I guess these are used for calibrating the camera. But we're going to stick that in kind of like that. And then the wire is going to come out through this corner. There's going to be a little gap here. So we're going to have the wire running over there just naturally loose. And then the last button, which will sit beside that camera button if you have it. If you don't have the camera button, you'll just have a space there, is going to be the switcher for the HD screen. And we're just going to find a nice way to sort of align all of these. And all of these three things just stick down with an adhesive pad. So let's get the adhesive pad stuck to the back of each of the components now. So in the kits, they've provided little sticky pads of 3M adhesive. So I'm going to just apply this to the big joystick one first. Okay, and then for the parking camera, if you have that on your car. And then it's already pre-applied on the HD screen switcher. So now I'm going to position the go for it, and I'm going to put the control joystick in. So you're free to choose any position you want, although the tail kind of wags the dog. And I'm going to put it as far to this side as I can, because I want to be able to have the buttons as accessible to my fingers as possible. So I've kind of got it nosed up to there. And and you can sort of do a little bit of left-right. I'm probably going to hedge it right a little bit, just because I've got the extra buttons for the parking camera. Now, if you're worried that your leather might have anything on it, dirt, dust, finger grease, you might take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol diluted in water and just give the leather a quick rub down to get rid of any of that so that it wouldn't interfere with the adhesive pads. And I'm gently pushing on the bits of the frame, not on the buttons, to try and get this stuck down well. All right, so there's the main joystick controller mounted. So next up, I'm going to sort of figure out where I want to place this button, because I know this one's so small, it's just going to go in whatever space I have left over. So I'm kind of doing a fairly hard over right turn if you have this front parking camera button. I don't want to strain that too much, so I'm going to have this straight up and down and then sort of level with the top. It's probably what I'm aiming for here. And I don't want to encroach too far over here. So, seems like that's about right. Looking at it from here, I'm below the top. And all you're ever going to be doing with that button is pushing it, so easy peasy. And then next up, peel and stick the HD screen switcher. All right, so I've got both those buttons stuck down, cables coming off to the side corner, joystick mounted. Can even put my power outlet plug in there. So there's my control panel sort of set up. So now we have to put the end caps back on. So we'll start by fitting this side, and you have to get your plastic lugs lined up with the plastic lugs holes in the 3D printed part. And that fits in pretty nicely. Now it's just a matter of fitting the screws. They might have a little bit more resistance because these are cutting their own threads going into the 3D printed part for the first time. Okay, so now we need to put on the other side that has the lid attached to it. You have to get the lid to engage in the hole of the other side. It's not very hard, but you have to line that up while you're simultaneously aligning these pins. And you have to get the cables to go through a little gap that will be there in this lower corner. Come on, man. There we go. Cables are okay. Perfect. Okay, so I had to fiddle with it because this only engages in this socket in one position, and then getting the two alignment holes and the cables coming out of the passage hole all at the same time was a bit fiddly, as you saw. But now that I've got it, it's a good time to actually just check that everything is still where you want it. And I can put back my mounting screws. And there we go, reassembled. So next up is let's put it back in the center console frame. Now we can reinstall our utility tray. And just like that, now we have essentially all of our controls mounted to our center console. So we have our joystick with its buttons. We have our front parking camera, our screen, input select. We still have our PowerPoint. And then of course we have our hidden most on-off switch and our hidden USB port. But when it's put away, you can't even tell it's there. Next up, we're going to start figuring out what we're going to do with all this wiring. We're going to be installing the multimedia module that will be the hub that all of this stuff connects to. Look for that in an upcoming video. So down here, you're going to find a link to my companion blog article, which will link to the tools and other things that are related to this project. Up here, you're certainly going to find the next video in the series where we're installing the multimedia module. If you'd like to get automatically notified when the new videos come out, please go ahead and subscribe. And as always, I'd love to hear your comments. Please leave those down below. Thanks for watching.